Welcome to Got Grass, conversations with the legends and leaders of Bluegrass. You've enjoyed live Bluegrass at Guitar Town CT concerts in Hamden, Connecticut since 2008. From Tony Rice, Rouse Stanley, and Doyle Lawson to Tim O'Brien, Sierra Hull, and Billy Strings. Now you can go behind the scenes as we chat with your favorite Bluegrass stars. I'm your podcast host, Chris Worth. I'm happy to welcome Ettore Buzzini to Got Grass today. Welcome.
Hey, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I'm sure you get a lot of different pronunciations of your name. I probably messed it up myself, but
yeah, I've gotten some crazy ones over the years.
Do you have a preferred nickname that your friends call you, or is that
Ettore?
Ettore. So it's Ettore, not Ettore. Ettore. Ettore is the right one.
Yeah, that's the American pronunciation. Ettore.
What's the correct one?
Well, I would say that one's pretty much correct for English, but in Italian it's Ettore.
Ettore.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I always I should tell people you're an 18-year-old banjo player, singer, and songwriter from North Carolina. That's correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And I like talking to some of the legends of Bluegrass on the podcast, but I also like talking to young, up-and-coming musicians like you, who I think are the future of the music. So I'm really happy to have you on here. Before we get started about music, I was wondering what's a perfect day off like for you? I know you're probably still in high school, right?
Yeah, still in high school. So most days I actually don't have school today because of Easter, but
Right.
Got in my last semester, so it's pretty easy, pretty chill.
So on a day off, when you're not playing music, you must have other things you like to do, or you like to play music all the time.
Well, I kind of have like a million different things to do. Also, with summer starting back up again, I mow a lot of lawns around the neighborhood. That kind of helps fund my music career right now. But
Yeah.
that's one thing I really like to get outside. I don't know about you, but when the weather's nice, I really like to get outside, and then playing music is a big thing, and writing music too. Like this winter, I've been composing things just because I haven't really needed to go outside, and I kind of don't want to because I don't like having to wear like 5 jackets and still be cold.
Get it. Yeah.
I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Although I used to be a real winter guy. As I get older, I'm less of a winter guy. I like to go outside and I do a lot of gardening and vegetable gardening and stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. Actually, I started that myself. But so your parents came from different worlds, right?
Yes, but a little bit similar if you think about it.
Yeah. How did they meet up? Like, how did that? Are they? Your father's not from the U.S., right? He's from Switzerland,
No.
or?
Yeah, he's from Switzerland, in the Italian part, Switzerland.
Right. So there must be a story there how they met.
Yes. So my mom, since she was an early teenager, kind of the way I am with bluegrass, she kind of got obsessed with living in France, and she was from East Tennessee, so she always wanted to move to France, and she saved up a bunch of money in high school and then bought a plane ticket when she graduated high school and moved to France. And several years later, she met my dad in France because my dad is from Switzerland, but he was studying. I think he was just on vacation in France, and they both spoke French. Because in Switzerland, there are 4 languages, and you're required to learn like 2 other ones of the national languages, like German, French, and you can also learn English. And so my dad was studying in the French part of Switzerland. So he spoke French. He went there and he met my mom in France, and I guess they dated, kind of long distance as well. And yeah. That's how I came about, pretty much.
So, did you come about over there or over here?
over here. So that's also another story. So back in the day, around like the 2000, 1999, they got married, and they had been like flying over to see each other. But my mom was from East Tennessee, and her mom got sick, and the only she got sick with ALS, and the only treatment center really was in Charlotte. And my dad actually, coincidentally, the company he was working for had an office. Their only office, pretty much in the U.S., was around Charlotte. So they moved to Charlotte, and kind of halfway in the middle, I guess.
Yeah. So as a kid growing up, was your house thought of as kind of the music house in the neighborhood?
I guess so. My parents don't play music, and so I was kind of like the only kid in the family. And I got my sister to play music for a little bit, but she just plays piano now. She used to play mandolin, and but yeah, we would go around and like play for the neighbors and stuff. So I guess that's kind of true. I never thought about that, but it probably is true. Now I think of it.
Yeah. What was it about bluegrass that appeals to you so much? I know you have a lot of other musical interests besides bluegrass that come into your bluegrass playing, but what's it about bluegrass that's so appealing?
The drive, probably. Like I first heard Earl, and that's what made me start. And and that was kind of like a lightning flash moment. It just and I was like, I want to do that. And that's kind of what first got me. And it's a whole world. So once you get into it a little bit, you go down the rabbit hole, and there's all this other kind of stuff that you learn about and learn to love as well.
Yeah. So Earl Scruggs was kind of your banjo hero starting out.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
still is.
still is. Um, because you play, and we'll get into this later. You play a very original melodic style of banjo, which I think, but you don't play like a lot of these so-called melodic players like Bill Keith and Bela
Hmm.
Fleck. You seem to have your own take on melodic banjo playing, um, but you still have, I guess, you have that Earl Scruggs kind of rhythm and drive to make all other stuff work. Without the
Yeah,
rhythm, it kind of doesn't really haul together.
yeah. He's definitely my building block, and also Don Reno.
Mm.
At first, I got really into Earl Scruggs for a couple of years, and then I got really into Don Reno. And I guess there's something about in the water here, because I think Earl was from around 45, 50 minutes away from here, and Don Reno like 2 hours away. So
So you're drinking the same water, I guess. That's good.
yeah.
I love J.D. Crowe because I grew up. My first bluegrass guy was Tony Rice. And Tony played with J.D. and idolized him and got his whole rhythmic style and sense from J.D. I think so.
Mhm.
I think of J.D. for me as like the bluegrass guy. I mean, I know Earl Scruggs was before him and invented all that stuff, but there's
Yeah.
a lot of great driving bluegrass players. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I was also JD was an indirect influence on me, because then I got into Terry Balcom,
Ah.
and he took a lot of stuff from JD, and that influenced me through Terry Balcom.
Hmm. So, do you listen to, or have you listened to a lot of classical music outside of bluegrass or jazz or other kinds of music, or do you now?
I've listened to a good amount of classical music. I've been inspired by it too. But yeah, because my grandpa, what I didn't know until recently was that actually on my dad's side of the family is it's more musical than my mom's side. So my mom's side, my grandpa played, but that was pretty much it. And on my dad's side, like my great grandma directed the village church choir, and her dad actually, because she was from New York and moved back to Switzerland, and actually her dad and I have family like around New Haven and Hartford that
Hmm.
I've never met or anything. But her her dad actually was like a marching band leader or like a community band leader in New York City, which I didn't know until like last year. But my grandpa has always been really into the classical world of bluegrass, classical world of music,
Yeah.
and so he kind of introduced me to some music there, and I got really into it over the past like 3 or 4 years.
So are your grandparents still alive, around, or?
The only one left is my dad's father.
Yeah, yeah. So are you looking for melodies and ideas in other kinds of music still for your bluegrass compositions or banjo playing?
Yeah, I'd say like I used to focus a lot more on the details and I would look for details, but now I'm kind of looking in the grand picture things that influence me, um,
Mm.
and to like influence my songwriting and
Yeah,
my actual performances.
yeah. I mean, you have a pretty wide-ranging. I've heard some of your compositions. I've heard a lot of your stuff on YouTube, your bluegrass stuff, but you've composed some other stuff which is different from bluegrass. You've talked a lot, I think, in places about the emotions of music and how you want to try to bring different emotion to bluegrass other than just, murder ballads and you know, sad songs with happy melodies kind of thing that bluegrass
Yeah,
is famous for.
yeah.
Um, so what kinds of emotions or themes do you look for? Or are you trying to kind of establish in bluegrass that you feel are kind of neglected in the genre? Or is that too broad a question?
No, I think that's a great question actually, because that was one of the first things that I noticed, not in it, and just like in other music, all the music, bluegrass kind of does have that limited kind of palette, especially, the sad songs with happy melodies.
Mhm.
But there's also like when I was listening to classical music, there's all these other kind of emotions and vibes that are that are really, powerful. Like kind of I feel like there's a little bit of that creepy or like ghostly thing, but it's not really played out to the effect at all, like or just like morbidness. It's usually with the happy melody and stuff, but you can really like illustrate that so much more. And also just like epic things, epic emotions, like a landscape. And and I notice now, like I think it's might be getting worse and worse, in the traditional section, because it really is starting to all sound the same.
Mm.
It's But then you also have the other people that are doing different stuff with it. So, but I think one of the yeah, that's definitely a big thing that can be changed is like the emotional array.
Yeah. It's interesting because, like classical music, I mean, people still go hear Beethoven, Bach, Mozart, Stravinsky played exactly the way it was written, and you don't change anything, and they'll keep doing that for hundreds of years. Um, and bluegrass, in a way, is similar in some respects because people do play the old standards exactly the way they were written and done by Bill
Yeah.
Monroe and Stanley's, 60 years ago. And then there's this whole aspect of bluegrass that's spreading out from that, which you're obviously part of. And there's a certain like tension, I think, between the traditional people and the new people. They're saying, well, it's not really bluegrass if you're doing this, or so it's. I guess all music goes through those kinds of conflicts where things are changing. I mean, Monroe
Mhm.
was a radical in his time too. I'm sure people said, "Boy, that ain't hillbilly music. That's something
Yeah.
else."
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, at its core, bluegrass isn't really traditional that much. It's good to keep it a little. That way, we just know what it sounded like. But it's not like old time, because I grew up around a lot of the old time people, and that is traditional. That's like folk music. And that's a whole different aspect though, because was created on purpose, and it wasn't just something that happened like a lot of the folk things are.
Right. I always find it funny when I don't play old time or Irish music for the very reason that the I find bluegrass exciting because of the fact that yeah, okay, here's the melody and here's the chorus, but now you can do something else with it. Whereas in old
Hmm.
time and Irish, if you do something else, they're gonna look at you and throw you out of the jam. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
it's very strict. And I love the fact I grew up listening to jazz, so to me, bluegrass and jazz are very similar because you can state the melody, whatever it might be, and you can go crazy with it, but it's still there, and you come back to it, and it all ties together, which I love.
yeah. That's I mean, and I guess that's kind of all over American. It's kind of its own genre, I guess. Yeah, big genre. Like it's not folk, but it's kind of like more along the lines of jazz and like country,
Yeah.
where you have the main the main idea and then you change it a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I think. That's what I always loved about a 2 minute, 30-second song is you had 30 seconds to play a solo, state the melody, change it, make it something notable, and get back to it. It's a real art and skill. I mean, you can play for 45 minutes and you're gonna play some interesting, cool stuff, but you're also gonna bore people to death, I think. Whereas if you could do it in 30 seconds, you're really
Yeah.
making it's a real art. I mean, you listen to the great soloists in bluegrass or jazz. It's to be able to summarize a song and improvise on it and come back to the melody in 30 or 40 seconds is to me is genius, really, you know.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely an art and you have to practice it as well. You can't just practice scales. You have to practice improvising and getting out, and you have to go outside and improvise with other people is really important.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true. So to change the topic completely, so after high school, how do you think your life is going to change? Do you have major plans that are different than what you're doing now?
Yeah, right now I'm just kind of trying to stay afloat while I have the school and all this other stuff. And I'm sure, I won't be less busy at all once I graduate, because that's just how life is. But I think I'm going to focus a lot more on music and also like, the business side, because that's an important aspect of music. Um, but I'm going to be playing this year. I'm setting up like a little tour over the summer, and I'm going to hit that and play that and try to get my name out there that way. And I'm working on an album, and I've been releasing singles. I just
Mhm.
released one actually, and so I'm going to be promoting that album this summer, and then the year after, I'm already working on another album
Mhm.
to finish in an extra year, so like next summer. And
Gotcha. Yeah.
I really, I'm going to take a. If I do go to college, I'm going to wait a little bit because I really want to. I don't want to have my hands in different pots. I really want to be able to put all of my energy into music. If you,
Yeah. I was going to ask you about college too, because I know, 50, 20 years ago, Bluegrass College wasn't really an option. And now East Tennessee and Berkeley, I mean, there's lots of places you can go to where you can play music and study it both. But I guess it's a lot if you're going to music college and trying to tour and perform and also work on an
Mhm.
album. That seems like three full-time jobs at once.
Yeah, it is. I thought about it, but I think if I did go to college, it would be for something other than music. Because the way I think about, first of all, a main thing of the bluegrass, one of the main thing about bluegrass, going to college for music and bluegrass, and to play bluegrass at least, is to, to meet people. And that's really the main point, is to, and like meet other musicians and form like maybe a band and stuff like that. But in my opinion, I think it would be more valuable, at least for me, to just like go outside and meet these people outside of college, and
Mm.
it's way cheaper.
So you're talking about touring. So you'll be bringing a small band with you of people that you, because I've seen some of your videos. You play with some other young people that are very good. Are you going to be bringing them with you and coming like to New England? Do you have a, are you going to stay around your area of North Carolina, or haven't you figured out exactly where yet?
Yes, so for this summer, I've got some different things scheduled. I have, I'm going to be bringing around a small band. I usually play with four people, banjo, guitar, and fiddle. But I'm going to be going. I haven't worked out anything for New England this year, maybe in the fall. But I'm definitely going up to like a mid-Atlantic type deal. So I'll be going up to Philly, and then Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, North Virginia.
Mhm.
But I would like to go up to New England and I guess all the way to Boston. And now there's a little bit of a scene in Boston because of Berkeley.
Yeah, there's quite a scene in Boston. Even if you go further up to, well, there's quite a scene in New England. I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah.
bluegrass in New England. You go up to Portland, Maine, there's a big bluegrass scene, and
Oh,
Brooklyn, New York, is a huge bluegrass scene.
yeah.
So yeah. By the way, when you were here recently, did you ever get to eat some pizza in New Haven? I we were talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. I didn't go to the one that you exactly said. I went, what was it, Sally's, I think?
Sally's. I said Sally's was my favorite, but there are a lot of good ones.
Yeah, I think Sally's, it must be a lot of people's favorite because we got there and there was this huge line already at like 11 in the morning for pizza. And so we walked it was in Little Italy, I guess. And so there were a bunch of pizza places around. So we just went to the next one and got a New England, not
Yeah,
New Haven style pizza, but it was good.
yeah. So that brings me to the where I met you. You were touring up here as an opening act for the traveling McCourys recently. I saw you at the Katharine Hepburn Theater in Old Saybrook. Um, so how did that process work? Did they just call you up and say, "What are you doing this weekend? Do you want to come open for us?" Or had you played with them before? Or how did it
Well,
work with the McCourys?
yeah, so I have known the McCurrys for a little bit of time now because when I was younger, I went up to Delfest and they had like a camp there too. I did the camp. And so I got to meet Rob and Ronnie and the rest of the band as well. And there's also a lot of jamming that happened there and
Mhm.
stuff like that. And I got to know them there. And I hadn't seen them for a while now, probably 2 years. And they it was an article on Bluegrass Today. They had Young Guns tour, and so I sent some emails to their manager, and oh, this is actually kind of funny too, the way this worked out. So they were there were a couple of dates, and it looked like I could do like a good amount of them at first, but then like a couple weeks passed by, and a lot of it had changed, and like I wasn't able to do most of them. So the only one I could do was in New England, and which was good because I got to meet you. But it was also a lot of fun because I actually did like a little trip up there in New England, and it was really nice.
Yeah. Did you guys drive up from North Carolina?
We flew into Providence, and
Oh,
then we visited Newport, which was
mm.
really it was cool for me because our beaches are different. They're just muck. So, and then we went to Old Saybrook, and then we went to the Woodstock next day, which was a really nice drive through New York.
Mhm.
And but the weekend after that, they were playing like 45 minutes from my house, but I was going to be in Florida for a bluegrass festival. So, but I guess unfortunately, because of Ronnie Bowman passing, like he passed on that Sunday, and I know they were really close to him, so they were affected by that a lot, and so they actually canceled the one close where like 45 minutes from my house. So I may actually end up being able to do that one as well. But
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun. was a lot of fun. That also um that other guy, Red, he was very good. So it was fun to work up stuff with him and Heaven, and then play song at the end with the McCurries.
Yeah, I was
Just
going to ask you, did you, so you hadn't met Red Day before that little mini tour?
No, we figured it all out there. I'd met his brother down here, actually. They have an interesting band
Mhm.
up in
Right.
Connecticut.
Yeah, Hosmer Mountain Boys, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like a retro style bluegrass band. They're really good.
I mean, I have to say that your group, you and Red, and then Heaven McCory on guitar, you guys stole the show at the Cade. As far as I'm concerned, you had all the energy and drive. They had all the noise and the loudness, but you guys had to me, the real bluegrass sensibility. It was a great show. Um, so did you have to rehearse some with them before? Did you just like get together before the show and say, let's do these 6 songs, or how'd you pick out or figure out what to do, or you just wing it?
We kind of just winged it. We had like an hour before to work through the stuff,
Mhm.
and we didn't come up with a little set list, but otherwise we just kind of like winged it, and it turned out good. It turned out great. I think
Yeah,
the
it
people there
was.
liked it a lot.
Oh yeah, people went crazy. To me, I mean, I love all these big bluegrass bands with their in-ears and their sound engineers, but to me, when you get together and just wing it and you're good players, the energy is what bluegrass is all about to me.
Yeah,
I loved it. Loved it.
for sure. Yeah, that's one of the big thing for me too, because I don't know about you, what the scene is like up there in New England, but down here, people go to these festivals and stuff to watch the bands, but really they just go to jam. And so there will be these awesome jams late at night, either in a campground or in a hotel room. And that's like a big part of the culture that I grew up with, was
Mhm.
jamming, late night jamming.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's some of the best bluegrass you'll hear.
Yeah. I know. Just guys around, no mic, and everyone just playing. That's even I like playing a group with one mic, the dance with one mic to me. I know the Del McCory band used to do it. I don't know if they still do. Not many bands do it because everyone wants to be, have their sound controlled and perfect all the time. But to me, it's
Yeah.
a little bit too much emphasis on perfection in bluegrass these days, and not enough on just playing the music and enjoying it. That's just my take.
Yeah, I agree. Like, then that's my band also does, as whenever I can, I try to use the condenser
Mm.
setup. And I definitely think there should be more emphasis on the raw, and I think, especially with AI coming out, like Spotify is like now, like, I don't think anybody really listens to it right now, but Spotify is like, I heard, is mostly AI songs now. Just, and because like out of the millions of songs, there are more AI,
Mhm.
and or something like that. It'll be pretty soon before it hits that point. And I think a lot of the actual, a lot of music is going to go back to just performance, like it was 150 years ago. It's just performance, because, recordings are already like, you don't make a lot. The way you're going to make money back is from Sirius or CD, and like streaming doesn't pay much at all. But also, that's just something that people are going to crave, is human, being around other humans, and experiencing it like firsthand, instead of, because, and a lot of things, especially the recordings, have gotten like really like perfect, and like too perfect. And that's one thing, in bluegrass, a lot of it, and in like everything, in like pop. But we're pretty close to that point where performance is going to be it. Our performance is already what matters, but it's going to be just performances pretty soon.
Um, yeah, I see and hope for this kind of rebellion or whatever you want to call it against AI running everything and the smartphone running everything, and people just communicating entirely through media, and a bounce back against that is going to be getting back together and playing music together and enjoying life together. I'm hoping, because it's kind of scary what's happening now with that and music and all parts of culture. It's just anyway.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into the whole philosophy of technology, but I like to
Yeah.
see. I like real things.
Yeah.
Tell me about your interactions with Pete Wernick, who's
Oh, yeah.
a great guy, great banjo player, great teacher, and just all around great guy. I know you had some dealings with him.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. Um, I was actually just talking with him on email, but I met him almost when I first started playing down here. Have you ever heard of Merlefest?
Yeah.
Yeah, Merlefest. Have you been?
Nope.
It's like 45 minutes from my house.
Nice.
It's like my home festival. And I met him 2019, 2018 he does one of his camps pre-Merlefest, the week before Merlefest. I met him there, and I hadn't seen or heard from him or talked to him really in several years, when he somehow got a hold of my first album, and we talked together, and so we met up again at that camp at like his hotel or something, and picked a little bit and just hung out a little bit, and then I ended up playing on stage with him a couple times at Merlefest once, and also at the Earl Scruggs Music Festival.
Yeah.
And that's really how I got to know him. And I'm going to see him this Merlefest too. It's what I was just talking to him about, and about that new song that came out. And so he's been a good mentor, and he's very like blunt. So he'll tell it like it is. So I always like to send, like, if I got a new song I'll send it to him, and he'll tell me what I need to fix.
Well, I like that too. I like people that are blunt.
Yeah.
It's funny because when you're, I guess, Ang is he your agent or kind of your rep? Ang Lee
And Ange Way.
Ange Way. Thank you. Sorry, I mispronounced
Yeah.
it. When he emailed me and said, "I have this kid. He's a great banjo player. Do you want to have him on your podcast?" And I said, "Well, okay, sure." Then I emailed Pete Wernick, because Pete's been on a podcast. I said, "Pete, what about this kid?" He said, "Oh, he's fantastic. Got to have him on." So that's one good reason you're on here. So Pete was very, very, very supportive and said, "Oh yeah, definitely, you got to talk to him." So that was
he's a very supportive guy in the music scene.
Yeah.
For me.
So I know you sing lead in your band, and I know there aren't that many banjo players that are lead singers. Do you find it easier to sing lead when you're playing guitar rather than banjo, or you don't see any challenge in playing banjo and singing lead?
It used to be that way for sure, but now at this point, whenever I play with my band, I don't play guitar, and at this point, I've gotten pretty comfortable singing lead and playing banjo at the same time. And I know that's like a thing, but it's probably, similar to, I've heard that singing and playing bass is really hard too, for some reason, but I don't know why guitar is so easy. It is pretty easy to sing and play guitar, but I've gotten pretty comfortable playing and doing, and also like as band leader, it's kind of like, that's not even the worst part. The worst part is like making sure everything is happening, and like, it's like doing a bunch of stuff in my head while I sing and play banjo.
Yeah, that's a lot to keep track of. Keep all those balls in the air while you're doing it.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Yeah, I know I've had quite a few bass players on here, and banjo players who have said to me, yeah, well, the bass especially, because you're keeping a rock solid rhythm. Okay. But the lyric melodies in bluegrass go all over the place. They syncopate, they hesitate, they go fast and slow. Especially, I was talking to Missy Ray, and she said, "Oh my God, playing bass and singing lead is the hardest thing I ever did in my life, because it's just two kind of opposite sides of the brain." And I think banjo, because you're like you're the rhythm driver, So you kind of have to keep that thing going. Yet the phrasing of the singing is can
Hmm.
go anywhere. So
Yeah, and I think it's just the complexity of twirling your fingers a certain way. It just makes it extra hard to sing.
yeah, yeah. Um, do you think your banjo playing has helped you be a steady rhythm guitar player? Do you think you have an innate kind of sense of timing from playing banjo that helps you? Because I've seen some of your videos where you play guitar and sing, and you have a really good rock solid rhythm style on guitar. But obviously as a banjo player, you have to have that too.
Yeah, one thing that has helped me is at first I was kind of awkward with my guitar rhythm naturally because that's, you start out not very good at anything. And and for a long time I just remember it being awkward and then I I grew up there's this guy, John Powell from around where I live, and I met him at one of these festivals and he has been a great family friend and supporter, and he's an amazing musician too, and he's one of the best rhythm guitar players ever, and that's what he's famous for because he'll back up all these people at the fiddlers conventions on a contest song, and he's just he's one of the best um, rhythm bluegrass rhythm players, and I've learned a lot from him about keeping it steady, and because also bluegrass and the rhythm of the guitar is also has like a little bit of goo aspect because it's not just chop and rhythm. It's also got to have some of the just the chord in there, so that's one of the things, and I'm getting better and better, but my timing has gotten better and better on banjo as well, playing with metronome and stuff like that.
Yeah. So talking about the banjo, you wrote and performed a piece called "Birth of Eros" at Fresh Grass,
Yep.
and that's a beautiful piece of music. And it worked out pretty well for you, I guess, at that competition, right?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah,
Worked
that
out
was
nicely.
yeah. So when you performed that piece, what was the reaction? I mean, I've seen video, but were people surprised at how kind of different it was from probably what they were expecting from a bluegrass banjo contest? Or
Yeah, I think so. I think the idea itself is art is kind of novel, the programmatic thing, where I don't know if you were able to hear the explanation of the piece,
hmm
but it's more of it's not just classical sounding, it's also you envision the story happening
hmm
at the same time. And I think that was pretty novel in bluegrass itself, and also for all those people there, you know, as a kind of like North Carolina. The song I played before that was "Dear Old Dixie," which is like a really hard driving, or it's like Earl Scruggs. It's classic bluegrass, and it's like played by a North Carolina style, picker, so playing hard and fast. I don't think
yeah,
people were expecting the the complexity of the next one compared to the Dear Old Dixie, which was like more focused on the hot licks. Then this next one is more focused about the story and the storytelling and more classical sounding.
yeah. But that piece, it starts out with that very fast thing with your thumb, and I'm going, wow, is he going to be able to keep that up? Because that's pretty. I don't know. I guess you've learned it so well. It's not something you have to worry about. But I was going,
Yeah,
wow,
that was
that's. Go
that
ahead.
was right after I had written it, and I spent a month, practice. I had a month to get it down pat, but and ironically, I had on that fresh grass one, I did have I didn't have a mess up, I don't think, but I forgot this part of it, and I had to improvise something else, which it worked out fine, but it was really scary in the moment because I didn't know if it was all going to go all south. But Gerald Dixie, I'd only worked up the night before, and it went perfect.
Yeah,
And that
yeah,
other one I'd been playing for a month, and I kind of forgot a part of it.
yeah. Well, I mean, the ability to kind of, if and when you lose your place, the ability to kind of get back is always one of the traits of a good musician because lots of times even in jams, you're playing a song and you're playing a lead and you don't know the song, you kind of forget where you are. But the ability to kind of do something that leads you back to somewhere under pressure is, it's a skill. It's not one you want to have to use too much, but it's good to have
Yeah.
it. Good to have
Yeah,
it.
it's definitely important. And I was at this banjo camp this year, the Bela one, and that one was amazing. It was my first time going, but it was great because there's all these people that are really, expanding the banjo, and they're not just. I had been in this one, the one circle of banjo players who was like the traditional, but it was great because I got out of that and I got all this outside too
Mm.
perspectives, and a lot of them, like one of the things that really came into focus with me there with improvising is like nothing improvised really can be rehearsed. you know
Mm.
it has to be, and you can't think about it on the spot. And actually, this is something I didn't know, but I learned a couple of years ago because I had a friend who did wrestling,
Mm.
and he was like, if you think about what you're doing on the wrestling mat, you'll completely mess up. And that's when I realized like wrestling is like improvising as well, because there you have these certain combinations like licks, but in the moment you're not thinking about which one to use. You're just kind of doing it. And that's how improvising is too. And so like clearing your head and stuff and all this mental focus things are really important. And you really need
Yeah.
that to perform well.
Yeah, that's a good point because I often ask people um, when you're about to take a solo, what are you thinking about, or are you not thinking about anything? And they say, well, ideally, I'm not thinking about anything. But sometimes, you're obviously you obviously have to keep in mind the song, the tempo, the key, the rhythm, who just soloed, how long you have, all these things but they're kind of subconscious, I
Yeah.
guess. And you
Subconscious
just
for
just want
sure.
to play. You just want to play.
Yeah, it should be subconscious. Yeah. You can't have a name for it. Otherwise you'll think about the name and then and you'll try to say the name or something.
I remember a famous quote, and I don't have it correctly, but I remember somebody asked John Coltrane about, how do you play the way you do? He said, "Well, just practice 10,000 hours, and then forget everything you practice and just play."
That's that's a
That's a
funny
good.
quote.
Yeah. So I know I saw you at the show in Connecticut, and you had a banjo, and that's the banjo you're playing generally now, and you had a little story behind it, right? It's someone you knew made it or something.
Yeah, so that one goes that's my grandfather's banjo, my G daddy's
Mm,
banjo.
mm,
And when I had been playing very long, my grandpa played banjo, and he bought that banjo in like 1990 from the guy who made it in East Tennessee. And it was kind of a parts banjo because it's got Gibson hardware, and it's got a Granger tone ring. And but he had carved the neck out himself and did all the inlay himself. And I don't know if you saw it, but it's got a lot of very pretty curly maple. But that's so my grandpa, by the time I had started playing, he wasn't really playing that much because he had gotten arthritis. And so I hadn't been playing very long, and he let me use that banjo, and I've been playing that banjo ever since. And it's a really good sounding banjo, but I don't know. I kind of want to get another nice banjo too, just because I don't want to take it on planes and stuff in case I can't bring it on the plane. It just, I think it'll be better to have like a really nice banjo that I don't have to worry about the emotional aspect either.
yeah. I saw an awful Facebook video lately of some baggage handler throwing guitars out of the plane onto the cart. No, I don't know if it was an AI one, but he was just like tossing these things, like almost trying to wreck them. I said, "Yeah, that's not a
Yeah,
good look. Not
yeah,
a good
yeah. No,
look."
I mean, there I always hear about a gnarly story of a guitar getting banged up. You
Mm.
know, I have never had to check my banjo yet because they fit in the overhead. Actually, but on the plane up to Providence, it was a small plane, and it wouldn't fit in the overhead, so I had to put it in between my legs, um, under the seat,
Mm.
which I'm glad it fit. But I know that
Yeah,
was really stressful because I thought I was gonna have to check it, gate
yeah.
check it. I cannot do that, and I just need a banjo that if I do gate check it, it's fine if something, it's not fine, but like I won't be the end of the world if it something happens to it.
Is there a certain banjo that in your dreams you would own, like a, like a mandolin player? Well, I might want to own a lore if I can ever have $1 million, or, a herringbone, 35 herringbone Martin. If is there a certain, or you don't really care about that? You just want one that you can play and sounds good.
Yeah, pretty much. I just care that it sounds good, um, and I can play it. I've been thinking about maybe a Pruka, something, you know, something that's nice,
Mhm.
but doesn't
Yeah,
have that much sentimental value, I guess.
yeah. Um, so as you play banjo, I like watching your right hand. And I noticed that, most banjo players are taught, I guess, to anchor your pinky and ring finger on the head and then play with your three. But I noticed sometimes you just have your pinky down and your ring finger is following your middle finger, although there's no pick on your ring finger, but it's kind of like the two fingers are working together. Is that just the way you play, or is that you aware of that, or maybe I'm telling you something you don't want to know? I don't
Uh,
know.
uh, talking about my pinky anchoring on the bridge.
I'm talking about instead of having your two fingers, your pinky and ring finger
Oh,
anchored on the top of the banjo, because you're picking with thumb and two fingers. Your ring finger often seems to follow your middle finger, which has a pick on it, and only your
yeah.
pinky's on the head. Is that?
I think that's like technically a bad habit. It does like influence the tone a little bit because I have to put my pinky on the string, like I anchor it onto the string. But I
Yeah.
think in the grand scheme of things, like it gives me, I don't have to worry, and it's just I kind of, I guess it's a bad habit, but I don't think it really matters, and I get more power when I'm playing loud that way and
Yeah.
more speed.
Yeah. You were talking a
But
little bit about arthritis, and I know, you're young, so but as you get older and you play an instrument, stiffness and arthritis in your hands becomes a big issue. Do you do anything um, to keep your hands looser, or is that kind of hard to do on a banjo? I mean, you have to have that certain tightness and rigidity to keep that rhythm thing going. Do you work on trying to stay loose? I listen to people like Brian Sutton, who says it's all about relaxation. You have to keep your body. Once you start tensing up any part of your body, your fingers tense up and everything becomes harder. And then obviously you get older, you're going to have arthritis. Do you do anything with your hands and fingers to keep loose, either while you're playing
um,
or practicing, or is that just you're not worried about it because you're only 18?
well, that hasn't been too much problem for me,
Yeah.
but I do like notice I've been trying to play this pretty hard banjo thing, and my left hand has been getting really tense, and it's just a matter, I think, of thinking about it. That's the time, but in a practice setting, like trying actively not to cramp tense up, and which can be really hard, especially if you're playing like fast and stuff.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about practice. Do you, I mean, obviously you have a lot of things going on in your life at school and so forth, but, you know, generally speaking, do you try to practice every day, half hour, 2 hours? Is it just depend on what your schedule is?
It kind of depends on my schedule, but I do like to practice. And these past couple of weeks, I haven't been practicing that much because I've just been really busy. But
Hmm.
practice is important, I think. And whenever, like in the summer, like whenever I have time, I will. And if I have like a whole day free, sometimes I'll spend like 6 hours practicing. Or, but if sometimes I won't practice in a week, it's just, and then, but a lot of times I do have like a schedule. I'll play like an hour to 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
Then I can really build on that, get better and better.
Do you practice playing melodies in your practice routine? Like what do you practice? I mean, do you obviously doing roles and songs and things, but do you try to work up new melodies and things and kind of get them into your fingers and your head while you're practicing? Because I know you're a
Yeah,
melodic player.
yeah, I do. I I spend like 15-30 minutes warming up, and I do like exercise. I'll do exercises like scales or something to get, my technique better and better. And then I also will spend a good amount of time just noodling and having fun
Hmm. Yeah.
and
So when
coming
you're
up with
when you're
stuff.
playing when you're performing on banjo with your group or even by yourself or as a duo, um, do you have a certain way of thinking about melody? Because I'm thinking of these melodic banjo players that like Noam Pikelny has a certain style. You hear him play, you know it's him. You have amazingly enough for 18 your own sound, your own style of melody playing, which I think is remarkable. Um, but how do you like? Do you have a certain approach to it? I mean, you're not trying to think of it as you're playing it, but are you trying to come up with a certain, I don't know, way of using the chord or the scales or modes, or are you just kind of just trying to find stuff that sounds interesting to you?
Kind of, I pick up little nuggets, and I after I absorb them for a little bit, I kind of spit it back out in my
Mm.
playing. And so I've just accumulated a bunch of different things that I do from random different places. Like sometimes I might have worked up some kind of classical thing, and I'll be like, and then a couple weeks later I'll like be playing and think of it'll just come out, and or it might be a lick from someone else that I heard, or this certain thing, or maybe this certain aspect of playing in the whole thing. I'll practice trying to do that, and then it'll come out naturally some other
Yeah,
time when I'm playing
yeah. Hmm.
stage.
Do you listen to music by Chopin? Because I grew up listening to classical piano, especially in jazz, and I love the music of Frederick Chopin. Talking about emotion and melody, all those minor and key changes, things that he does
Yeah,
are just some of them are obviously virtuosic, crazy things, but some are very simple. But they create this mood because of the melody and the chords. Do you listen to him? Have you listened to his work or some or
yeah. I've listened to him, not as much as I've listened to Liszt though.
oh,
I like Liszt
hmm,
a lot but I also like Chopin. Chopin's definitely got his vibe, and he has a lot of masterpieces. And
hmm,
but I also I'd say I've listened to more to Liszt just because, you know, I like a lot of Liszt has, it has the flashy fingers, but more than that, it's got a lot of really cool musicianship, and it's also not just piano stuff, like a lot of orchestral stuff, which I generally tend to listen to more orchestral things than just piano. But and Chopin kind of wrote, just the only time he wrote for an orchestra was when it was like a concerto with the
right,
piano.
right.
So
Yes, yeah,
and
yeah.
Liszt kind of did everything, um, and did a lot of really good things on every genre and setting, kind of.
Did your grandparents influence you towards Franz Liszt? Because most young people I know who listen to classical say, "Oh, I listen to Mozart, Beethoven, Brahms, or Tchaikovsky." Liszt would be a little more obtuse for most people, I think. Were you influenced because your grandparents played it in the house, or you just were drawn to it?
I was just drawn to it. I'd read about him as well. Here's the best, you know, the craziest piano pieces of all time. And then I listened to those. I guess, everybody knows that one song, La Campanella. It's kind of like one of those for Elise
Mm,
situations.
Right.
and but he also, a lot of the harmony is really innovative, and a lot of it's really interesting, and also like the form, like his vision of the whole piece of music was different, and a lot of it was like he came up with the symphonic poem, which is a lot like the Birth of Eros, and it's like a storytelling except just with music,
Hmm. Yeah.
and a lot of his like ideas influenced me. And so first I had just heard of him because of like the piano stuff, but then I got more into him all around.
I guess these guys were like the superhero rock stars of the day too. They were
Yeah.
so famous and, you know, just amazing, amazing
Yeah,
talent.
I guess he was the first rock star, or first, celebrity musician that there
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. I notice sometimes you play the banjo, you use your index finger as like a bar across the frets. Is that something that you use to kind of enable you to play different melody variations from that position? Because I haven't seen a lot of banjo players, you know, using the bar, not really a bar chord, but using the bar across frets up and down the neck to then play melody from. I don't know. Is that something you're aware of or you've tried to do, or is that?
I think that comes out just because of, starts off as a chord,
Mm,
and, you know, on the Scruggs method of playing, I guess, originally, you play all these melodies out of chords, and that's still how I think of it. I heard about how Bela spent a long time learning how to do it just with lines, without chords. But I still use chords a lot. Even my in my solos, I'll play the whole chord a lot of the time. And so if I'm doing that bar shape, it's usually to play out of the chord and use the chord as well
gotcha.
at the
Yeah.
same time.
Do you have a musical hero today that um, kind of inspires you emotionally in a big way, aside from, Earl Scruggs and people like that, like a contemporary musical hero, I guess you'd say?
I'm not sure. I I do, I don't know if she's my musical hero, but I do like to listen to Katy Perry. It's my guilty
Yeah.
guilty
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 pleasure.
pleasure. And I do, yeah. I mean, I listen to Katy Perry and some pop stuff, and I'd have to think. And in bluegrass, there's some really good bands out there right now. And, Bela is definitely, I haven't specifically taken a lot of things directly from his playing, but his ideas and like how he's always doing a different project is inspiring to me. And it kind of seems like what I would want to do with my life is just be playing music in all different kinds of ways. I think it would be it's inspiring as a person, as a life.
Mm, yeah. Anybody in music history that you would have loved to sat down and played with next to?
Well, I mean, Earl,
Yeah.
I guess I never got to meet him, and I think he died before I started playing. Yeah, a while before, but it would have been really cool to meet him or any of the earlier bluegrass greats. You know,
Yeah. Any chance of you doing a duo with a keyboard kind of thing, like banjo keyboard kind of setup?
maybe I feel like maybe the banjo might be a lot like a keyboard
Mm,
functionally, but
yeah.
I haven't I haven't looked into it too much. I feel like on my third album, I'd like to have an organ on it, on maybe the last song. So maybe pretty cool.
Interesting. Yeah. Is there anybody, speaking of duos, because I love duo format, is there anybody that you think would be a fun person to have a duet performance or album with? I think of things like Skaggs and Rice or Tim O'Brien, Brian Sutton kind of duos that, there's so much more you can do with two people playing off each other, singing instrumentally. I think it's a cool way to present music. Anybody for you that would be a ideal duo partner?
I'm not sure. I do have bands I'd like to play with and jam with, but I don't know if there's a duo yet. I feel like that could be definitely a thing that happens. I just don't know who the right person is right now to do a duo with.
Yeah. Could I ask you which bands you want to play with? I don't want to put you on the spot, but
okay.
I'm just curious to know who you like. I mean, there's a lot of great music out there.
Well, there's this band. One of my goals for practicing was it used to be. I don't know if you've heard of Crying Uncle.
Yes, I have. Yeah,
they're amazing, an amazing band, and I've only met them and like hung out with them for a little bit. Like I ate breakfast with them or something, but they were really great on their instruments. And I've always like slightly missed the chance to jam with them. And when we say we're going to jam with them, but one of my goals for practicing used to be that I would jam with them and just like be able to fit in because they're so good. And they need a banjo player. So I was like, I think that would be a really cool. I think it'd be cool to jam with some of these like really good bands that don't have a banjo player.
Yeah.
And they're out in California. There is a good amount of them because I guess there's not that many banjo players. But Crying Uncle is one.
I'll look into them more. I know the name, but I really don't know the music. But I'll check them out because I like to hear about bands that I'm not really that familiar with. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about? We're over an hour here, and I like to keep it around an hour so people will listen to it. Anything else you want to share with the audience about projects or up and coming things? Go ahead.
Yeah, I definitely would like to share about I don't know when this is coming out, but I just released a single called Flowers, and I'm working on this second album and releasing singles from it. So check it out. It's under Ettore Buzzini, and check that out. And it's on Spotify. What do you upload this to Spotify, Apple Music, and stuff like that?
Yeah. Yep.
It'll be in all the streaming platforms, and that's my current project. And then after that, that'll go along with this 2026 tour. And then I am working on a third album, which is more classical. It's more classical in thought. It's like a concept album almost. And I'm working on that for 2027.
Wow, you've got a lot on your plate. You've got a lot planned out. I'm gonna hope that you come up here to New England sometime and perform with some sort of band. I loved your trio at the McCrory's show, and I'd love to have you guys up here sometime in some form. So I want to thank you, Ettore, for coming on the podcast, and wish you luck with all of your projects.
Thank you.
Next time you come here, you could go to Sally's and compare it to wherever you went for pizza.
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of stuff up in New Haven besides pizza, but it seems like we're most famous for pizza. So whatever.
I'll have to see because that pizza I had was pretty good already. But thanks for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, it's been fun, and I hope to catch up with you again soon in person. So thanks again.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
I hope you enjoyed our podcast, and thanks for listening. Visit our website, guitartownct.com, for concert and podcast schedules, or just to send us a message. We'd love to hear from you.